The first strike for 3,000 years, the galaxy had been quiet. The Great Council of Races had promised peace, and the promise had lasted so long that people forgot what war even felt like. Children grew up hearing only stories of battles from ancient times, but no one believed such things could ever return. Planets were safe, trade was strong, and fleets existed only for patrol, not for fighting. But on one cold morning in the Outer Rim, everything changed. It began with silence, deep silence, as entire communication relays suddenly went dark. The Council thought it was a technical problem, maybe a storm near the relay stations. But then ships stopped answering, colonies stopped responding, and satellites showed nothing but black static. Soon after, the first screams arrived across the networks. A small mining world called Kiros burned in fire. Varnak warships, huge, spiked, and glowing with strange energy, descended without warning. The Varnak had not spoken to the Council for 1,000 years, and when they returned, it was not with words, it was with war. The attack was brutal. Kiros's defense ships were old and weak. Built for escort, not war, they fired with desperate hope. But their beams broke like glass against the shields of the invaders. Within hours, the mines were gone, the cities in flames, and the survivors dragged into chains. The Council gathered in emergency, their faces pale, their voices trembling. They asked one another, why now? Why after 3,000 years of peace? But no answer came, only more news. Another colony destroyed, another fleet erased, another race begging for help. The Varnak had come with power the galaxy had not seen in centuries. Whole armadas swept across the stars, burning and crushing without mercy. Planets that thought themselves safe learned the truth. They were prey again. Fear spread faster than light, and the Council was paralyzed. But while aliens panicked, one race reacted differently. Humans on Earth, the alarms rang, but the people did not collapse in fear. In the halls of the human admiralty, the old commanders sat with cold eyes. They looked at the reports, the flames, the ruins, and they smiled, not a smile of joy, but a smile of something older, something sharper. It was the smile of a predator that has been waiting. While other species had forgotten war, humans never had. Their history was carved with it. Their culture remembered it. Their blood carried it. 3,000 years of peace could not erase thousands of years of battle before. Humans whispered to one another. Finally, it comes. On the colony world of Arcturus, the Varnak struck again. They expected to crush it in a single day. The Council begged humans to abandon it, to save their fleets for defense closer to Earth. But the human admiral said only, no, let them come. When the alien fleets descended, the sky filled with fire. Varnak dreadnoughts blocked out the stars, their weapons ready to burn cities. Council observers closed their eyes, whispering, this is the end. But the humans stood tall, calm as if facing a storm they had already predicted. In the command bunker, the human admiral leaned over the table and whispered to his officers, let them strike first, let them believe they win. Then we will show them. And with that, the trap was set. The Varnak unleashed their fury, tearing through the outer defenses. Explosions lit the night sky. Dust and fire rolled across the plains. The alien commanders laughed in their guttural tongue, believing victory was already theirs. But humans waited, silent, patient, like hunters in the dark, and then, at the exact moment when the aliens thought the humans had nothing left, the smile returned from hidden vaults deep beneath the colony. The first human war machines rose, ships older than the peace, preserved in secret, upgraded in silence. The aliens watching from afar gasped. The humans had hidden fleets all this time. The Battle of Arcturus began, and for the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy remembered what real war looked like. The galaxy thought it knew humans. They were seen as a young race eager to trade. Quick to laugh, always curious, they were clever, yes, but fragile compared to the mighty powers of old. No one believed humanity had anything hidden, anything dangerous, anything worth fearing. But the truth was different. The truth was buried deep under mountains, oceans, and even beneath the deserts of Earth. Secrets older than the Council itself. Secrets kept in silence while the galaxy slept in peace. Humans had been preparing, waiting, and watching. When the Varnak struck Arcturus, the hidden weapons came alive. Ships that looked ancient but carried firepower that defied imagination. Missiles that split into hundreds of smaller darts. Confusing enemy shields. Railguns that fired metal rods faster than light. Shattering armor like paper, and drones, countless drones, rising like a swarm of steel insects. Aliens watching from council ships whispered in disbelief. How do they have this? We thought their fleets were small. But the human admiral only gave a cold glance and said, "Peace is a mask, war is the truth. Long ago, before the peace treaty of 3,000 years, humanity had fought wars no one remembered. On Earth they had burned continents, sunk nations, and built weapons meant to end all life. When the council came and offered peace, humans accepted, but they did not forget. Instead, they built vaults, hidden fortresses, where the most dangerous knowledge was sealed. Not destroyed, not erased, sealed because deep inside, humans knew peace would not last forever. A council historian once asked a human scholar, "Why do you keep old records of battles when no one fights anymore?" The scholar only smiled and replied, "Because one day someone will forget peace, and then we will remember war." And now that day had come. As the Battle of Arcturus raged, more secrets unfolded. The humans revealed stealth ships that turned invisible against sensors. They revealed shock troops in exoskeleton suits, moving faster than alien eyes could follow. They revealed codes, viruses, and hacking tools that slipped into enemy computers and turned weapons against their owners. Every weapon was not new, it was old, perfected. Tested in the forgotten dark ages of Earth, the council members were terrified. They had trusted humanity as a peaceful ally, a race of explorers, but now they saw the predator behind the smile, a predator that had been sharpening its claws while pretending to be harmless. The Varnak were shocked too. They had believed humans would be easy prey, a weak link in the council chain. But when their fleets faced the hidden war machines, their laughter stopped. A single human cruiser, smaller than a Varnak dreadnought, ripped it apart with a storm of railgun fire. The wreckage floated across space, glowing red like a dead star. In the human command room, the admiral stood calm. He did not celebrate, he did not cheer. He only said to his officers, "This is only the beginning. They do not know yet what we truly hold." Because there were more vaults, hidden deep in old Earth bunkers, in asteroid stations, even under the frozen seas of Europa. Weapons sealed away not just for war against aliens, but once against themselves. And those weapons had never seen the light of peace. They were waiting like wolves in a cage. The council begged humanity to share this technology. "Give it to us, let us fight together," they pleaded. But the humans shook their heads. "No, these weapons are not for you. They are for us alone." The cold refusal spread fear. What else were humans hiding? How much power had they kept in secret? One council leader whispered to another, "If they win against the Varnak, what will stop them from ruling all of us?" The other could not answer. Only watch the human smile grow sharper as battles turned. And still the Varnak pressed forward. They had numbers, endless numbers, fleets upon fleets. They believed even with hidden weapons humanity could not hold forever. But humans had something more than technology. They had memory, they had instinct. They had war in their bones on the bridge of a human warship. An old captain told his crew, 3,000 years of peace made the galaxy soft. But not us, we remember, we always remember. And as his words spread, human fleets answered across the stars, awakening their vaults, opening their arsenals, preparing for the storm. The galaxy now understood why humans smiled when war began. Because while others forgot, humans remembered, and those memories were about to reshape the fate of every star. The Varnak were confused. They had destroyed planets, crushed fleets, and silenced entire species, but now, for the first time, they faced something unexpected. Resistance. Not from the council, not from ancient powers, but from humans. The Varnak had always believed strength came from size and numbers. Their war fleets stretched across star systems. Their dreadnoughts were floating cities of death, and yet at Arcturus they lost not to superior firepower, but to something far more dangerous, human strategy. The council thought humanity would now counterattack with everything they had. But instead humans did nothing. No massive fleet movements. No declaration of war, no call for revenge. They simply waited, watching quietly, as if the war wasn't real yet. This silence made the Varnak uneasy. So they sent another wave, larger than before, toward a human-controlled planet called Haven 6. It was a small colony world, known more for farming than defense. The aliens believed they would crush it in hours, just like Kyros, but when their warships entered orbit, they found no heavy defenses. Just a handful of small ships and a few orbital guns. Their scanners detected one military base on the surface. Old, under-equipped, and barely staffed. The Varnak laughed, ready for easy slaughter. What they didn't know was that this planet had been chosen. Chosen by the human high command for something specific. A test aboard the human base. Captain Elias Gray stood in front of his squad. They were not elite warriors, not famous veterans. They were volunteers, young, untested, some barely out of training, and they knew the truth. They had been sent here not just to defend the planet, but to prove something. This is not about survival, Captain Gray told them, his voice firm but calm. This is about sending a message. He looked each of them in the eye and added, "If we fall, the enemy will laugh, but if we stand, they'll never sleep again." His soldiers didn't ask questions. They knew what was coming, and they smiled, not because they wanted to die, but because they understood they were the bait. The first Varnak strike hit the outer perimeter. Explosions shook the valley and dust filled the air. But the humans didn't panic. They moved like shadows, using old trenches, camouflage, and decoys. They turned farmland into traps, water pipes into fire launchers, and irrigation tunnels into ambush zones. The Varnak lost their first ground team within minutes. To them it felt like magic, an enemy they couldn't see, traps they couldn't predict, but to the humans, it was just another page from their history, old Earth warfare forgotten by others. Remembered by them back in orbit, the Varnak commander grew impatient. He sent more troops, then even more by the end of the day. Half his ground forces were dead or captured, and that's when Captain Gray sent his message. It was a simple broadcast. "Only 42 of us," he said, "and still, you failed." The signal was short, but it echoed across enemy frequencies. It was not a boast, it was a warning. The next morning, human reinforcements arrived. Not giant fleets, just a few small ships carrying special observers. Not to help in the fight, but to watch. Among them were human scientists, AI analysts, and even historians. They were here to study how well the young soldiers performed. This was the human test, not just of weapons, but of spirit, creativity, and chaos under pressure. Because humans didn't believe in throwing numbers at a problem. They believed in breaking the rules of the game. As the last Varnak troops were wiped out, the council was left speechless. They had seen a small group of humans fight off an army. Not with better weapons, but with smarter minds. With dirty tricks, unpredictable moves, and bold courage, one council ambassador said, "If this is how humans fight with 40 men, what happens when they send 40,000? No one had an answer. Even the Varnak, proud and merciless, began to hesitate. But humans weren't done after the victory. Captain Gray walked through the ruins with his surviving team. Only 12 were left, their uniforms burned, their eyes tired but shining. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Let them come again. We'll be ready." And back on Earth, the High Command marked Haven 6 not as a battle but as a lesson, a signal to the galaxy that humans didn't just survive war. They studied it, adapted it, and turned it into art. War was not horror to them. It was a puzzle, a challenge, a chance to evolve, and in that test, humanity had passed with blood and brilliance. The galaxy would never look at them the same again. Across the stars, silence followed the human victory at Haven 6. The galaxy didn't know whether to cheer or tremble. No one expected a small group of humans to hold off a full invasion force. But now something had changed in the air, something invisible yet powerful. Fear. Not fear of the Varnak anymore, but fear of humans. The council gathered again. This time in secret, whispers filled the chambers. If humans are this strong now, what were they hiding before? What if they decide not to stop at defense? But no one dared to say it aloud. No one wanted to imagine a human empire. Meanwhile, the Varnak were furious. They had never suffered such humiliation. They had destroyed hundreds of worlds in weeks, and yet one colony broke their momentum. Their pride was wounded, and for the Varnak, pride mattered more than victory, so they planned something bigger. A full-scale invasion, not just of one planet, but of an entire human system. Their goal was clear: crush humanity's spirit before it spread further, end the myth before it became legend. Their target was Sarah Prime, a system with 3 colonies, advanced tech hubs, and a major population center. It was not lightly defended, but it wasn't a fortress either. The Varnak believed the humans would panic. They believed wrong. When the human scouts saw the incoming Varnak fleet, over 300 warships, they didn't run. They didn't call for help. They activated something called Protocol Iron Veil. Under Protocol Iron Veil, Sarah Prime was transformed. Civilian ships were reconfigured for battle in hours. Factories switched from farming equipment to turret construction overnight. AI systems linked every drone, camera, and defense turret into one living net. But the real weapon wasn't metal or machines, it was information. Humans had studied every battle since the Varnak's return. They knew their patterns, timing, and weak spots, and now, they used that knowledge to rewrite the rules of war. The Varnak arrived at Sarah Prime expecting fear. Instead, they were greeted with silence. No distress signals, no fleeing ships, no diplomatic requests. Just a calm voice over the comms. Welcome. We've been expecting you. The Varnak hesitated, then attacked. The first wave dropped from orbit like burning arrows. But instead of landing on open ground, they fell into ambushes. High-rise buildings exploded outward, revealing hidden artillery. Roads turned into magnetic traps, freezing armored units in place. Every street was a puzzle, every corner a trap. Every human unit moved as if they already knew what would happen next. And in truth, they did. Because the entire Sarah Prime system was now controlled by a single predictive AI. A system humans had built not for defense, but for outthinking the enemy. The Varnak lost over 60 ships in the first hour. They pulled back, confused and bleeding. One commander screamed, "It's like they see the future." But what he didn't know was that the future was being calculated in real time. On the ground, a young human lieutenant led a team through the ruins. She wore no armor, just light gear and a neural interface. As the battle evolved, she received live updates in her visor. Enemy movement, weather shifts, even heartbeat readings from her own soldiers. With that data, she made split-second choices that changed the course of skirmishes. She wasn't just fighting, she was orchestrating a dance of war. And the Varnak couldn't keep up. The turning point came when the human fleet, silent until now, emerged from the planet's shadow. Not large, not loud, just 27 ships. Sleek, dark, and fast, they moved like whispers, dodging blasts and slicing through the enemy formation. One ship, the Horizon Blade, pierced straight through 3 Varnak cruisers before disappearing again. Its weapons were advanced, yes, but it was the pilot that terrified the aliens. A human veteran named Kale. Known in secret files as the Ghost, he flew without fear, without hesitation, because he had trained for war before peace ever began. The Varnak, seeing the battle slip away, tried to retreat, but the humans didn't let them. They had waited long enough. Now was the moment to show the galaxy what happened when humanity got serious. As the last Varnak flagship exploded over Sarah Prime, the signal was sent across all channels. A simple message from the human command. We don't start wars, but we finish them. Across the galaxy, millions watched the footage. Aliens who once laughed at humans now watched in silence. Children in distant worlds now played games pretending to be human warriors. And leaders in hidden rooms whispered plans, not against the Varnak, but about how to deal with Earth. Because now everyone understood this was the turning point. The Varnak may have started this war, but the humans were about to end it. The Varnak retreat from Sarah Prime was not just a loss. It was a message written in fire, wreckage and silence. The kind of message that doesn't fade, it spreads like wildfire. Every race in the Galactic Council received the reports. Encrypted files, raw video feeds, live battle data, all showed one terrible truth. Humans didn't just win, they dominated, and they didn't use brute force. They used strategy, timing, and terrifying patience. In the council chambers on Orith 7, leaders from 20 races sat in uneasy silence. Holograms flickered across the room showing the smoking remains of Varnak ships. The speaker of the council, a long-necked Duran named Galactic, stood with shaking hands. "We must speak clearly," he said. "Humanity is no longer just a council member. They are something else now. Some tried to defend humans. They only fought back after being attacked," one ambassador said. "They're just defending themselves," said another. But others weren't so sure. A reptilian warlord from the Thar Dominion slammed his clawed hand on the table. "They smiled when war came," he growled. "They smiled. That is not defense. That is hunger." Behind the debates and fear, something darker was spreading. Doubt. For centuries, humans had been seen as helpful, cooperative, even naive. But now the council questioned everything. Had humans been preparing for war all along? Had they simply waited for the right excuse? On Earth, the humans said little. They didn't gloat, didn't threaten, didn't demand. They simply kept moving, building, training, watching. The silence scared the council more than any speech could. In secret, the council launched spy probes toward Earth. They hoped to find weaknesses, signs of panic, anything. But what they found was worse: factories working day and night, colonies training civilians in combat drills, warships being produced at speeds never seen before, and most disturbing of all, entire planets going dark, systems labeled as restricted zones cut off from all traffic. "What are they hiding?" asked a nervous technician. No one answered because deep down they already knew. Humans were building something big. Council scientists examined the weapons used in the Sarah Prime battle. They discovered systems more advanced than anything allowed by Council law. AI units that adapted mid-battle, drones that moved like insects but thought like wolves. They realized something chilling. Humans had never stopped evolving their weapons. Even during 3,000 years of peace, they had kept creating, one counselor whispered. If they prepared this much for defense, imagine what their offensive power looks like. Back on Earth, the human high command received every transmission. They knew the council was watching, and they let them watch. Because fear was part of the plan, General Ria Novik, one of humanity's most secretive leaders, stood in a war room below the Arctic Circle. Her officers presented the latest surveillance data from Council worlds. "Some are considering cutting us off," an aide said. "A few even speak of preemptive strikes." Novik didn't flinch. She looked at the glowing map of the galaxy and said one word: "Good." The humans wanted the Council to be afraid. Not because they wanted war, but because they wanted to end it, completely. And fear was the only thing that kept weak alliances from collapsing. On the outer rim, the Varnak were regrouping. Their losses were heavy, but their pride still burned. They sent messages to nearby systems promising vengeance. But fewer allies answered this time, because those systems remembered the smiling human ships at Sarah Prime. In the dark, rumors began to spread. That humans had built a ship the size of a moon, that they had soldiers who never slept, that Earth was just one of many hidden strongholds. No one knew if it was true, but the fear alone was enough. On neutral worlds, alien citizens whispered, "Have you seen what the humans did? They turned cities into weapons. They sent only 42 soldiers against an army. They fight like they've done it 1,000 times." The galaxy began to change. Even without firing another shot, humanity had already reshaped the war. The Varnak no longer looked unstoppable, and the Council no longer looked united. Now everyone was looking at Earth, not as a member of the Council, but as the deciding force of the entire war. The Speaker of the Council met privately with the remaining leaders. "We must decide," he said. "Do we trust them or prepare for what they might become?" No one answered because deep down they all feared the same thing, that maybe the war wasn't between the Council and the Varnak anymore. Maybe the real question was this: what happens when a peaceful galaxy is forced to remember what humans truly are? They smiled. From the beginning of the war, the humans smiled. When the Varnak attacked Kiros, they smiled. When the Council panicked, they smiled. Even when thousands of alien warships approached Earth's colonies, they didn't scream, didn't run, didn't beg. They smiled. At first, the galaxy thought it was arrogance. Later, they thought it was madness. But neither was true. It was preparation. It was memory. It was understanding something the galaxy had forgotten. In a secret chamber beneath the Andes Mountains, hidden from all known maps, a council envoy was invited by the humans. His name was Diaries, a wise elder from the Nilari species. Known for diplomacy and logic, he was the first non-human allowed into the Vault of Ashes, a place that hadn't been opened in over 3,000 years. He walked through long halls filled with dust and silence. Old paintings lined the walls, images of burning skies, shattered cities, and steel warriors. Weapons from Earth's dark ages were kept behind thick glass. Flamethrowers, plasma blades, bioweapons too dangerous to name. And above every display was a plaque with a single phrase: "Do not forget." Diaries felt a chill he couldn't explain. He turned to his human escort, an older general with cold eyes and a gentle voice. "Why show me this?" Diaries asked. The general didn't answer. He simply opened a steel door and gestured forward. Inside was a room filled with monitors, each screen showing a different human battlefield. Not against the Varnak, but from Earth's own past, wars between nations, brothers and cities, civil wars, world wars, cold wars, proxy wars, digital wars. The images flashed: fire, blood, ash, silence. Over and over again. "Do you see now?" The general finally spoke. "We don't smile because we love war. We smile because we survived it." Diaries didn't understand at first. So the general explained, For 3,000 years, the galaxy lived in peace, and that was good. But for thousands of years before that, Earth burned. Every generation, another war, another reason, another enemy. Until we finally learned what it truly meant. Diaries watched the screens as Earth's history unfolded. Nations rising and falling. Alliances made and broken. Millions lost, rebuilt, lost again. And through it all, humans adapted, evolved, became sharper, harder, until war no longer surprised them. It became something they understood deeply. So you were waiting for this day? Diaries asked. The general shook his head. No. We hoped it would never come. But we knew someday. It would. The Varnak thought war would break humanity. Instead, it awakened them. It pulled back the curtain of peace and reminded them who they really were. Across the galaxy, humans now moved with focus. No fear, no doubt, no hesitation. Each colony reinforced, each citizen trained, each ship built with purpose. They didn't wait for permission, didn't argue over politics because they had already learned. Peace was precious, but it must be protected by strength. In a council broadcast, a young alien reporter interviewed a human civilian on Mars. She asked, "Why aren't you afraid of the Varnak?" The man, wearing a dusty mechanic uniform, simply replied, "Because fear doesn't stop bullets." Then he smiled, and millions saw that smile. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't angry. It was calm, like someone who had seen the storm before and knew how to survive it. The smile became a symbol. It spread across human channels, painted on ships, printed on helmets. It wasn't meant to threaten. It was a reminder to themselves. And to the galaxy, humans smile when war comes. Not because they want it, but because they're ready for it. The council finally understood. All those years while they celebrated peace, humans studied war. They studied not to dominate, but to prevent, not to conquer, but to survive. But now that survival was on the line, they would not hold back. In a final moment before the next campaign, the human high command released a message. It showed old Earth history, side by side with current battles, and at the end, a single sentence appeared on every screen. "We are the product of our past, so we can protect your future." And then came the smile. Not cruel, not forced, just a quiet human smile. Staring back at the galaxy, it was the last warning. Because the next part of the war would show what happens when humanity stops holding back. The time for warnings had passed. The time for speeches, for hesitation, for holding back was over. The galaxy had seen the smile. Now it was time to understand what lived behind it. The Varnak gathered their full strength. Thousands of warships, giant carriers, bioengineered monstrosities, and gravity cannons. They called it the devouring wave. An unstoppable storm meant to erase Earth from the stars. They didn't hide their plan. They wanted humans to see it coming, to feel helpless, to crush their spirit before crushing their worlds. But humanity didn't flinch. They watched the storm with steady eyes and steel hearts because this was not new. They had seen storms like this before. On Earth, in their own history. They had survived them all at Luna Command. Just above Earth's moon, Admiral Saren stood before the global fleet. Her voice echoed through every ship, every suit, every headset. "This is the moment," she said. "For 3,000 years we kept peace. Now we will teach them why that peace lasted so long." She raised her hand. And one word followed: unleash. It began quietly. In the asteroid belts, hidden doors opened and revealed shipyards larger than moons. From them launched vessels no one outside Earth had ever seen. Colossal dreadnoughts covered in black armor, cruisers that could cloak in open space, and weapons that bent light, folded space, and danced across dimensions. The council gasped. "This is impossible," one whispered. "These ships, they're legends." "No," another corrected. "They're nightmares." The Horizon blade led the charge. Its hull shimmered like liquid metal. Its engines sang with ancient power. Behind it flew the Pale Reaper, the Echo Wrath, and the Spear of Soul. Names written long ago, never spoken aloud. Each ship carried a different purpose. Shock, confusion, destruction, disruption. They didn't wait for the Varnak to arrive. They went to meet them in deep space, far from planets. The two fleets collided. The Varnak fired first, beams of dark energy lighting the void. But human ships didn't dodge. They bent around the beams, flickered, disappeared, reappeared behind the enemy lines, and then they answered. The silence of space exploded into chaos. Human missiles split into clouds of microblades that sliced through armor like paper. AI-guided rounds danced between shields, finding the smallest weaknesses. Some human ships didn't fire at all. They hacked the Varnak systems mid-battle, turning their own ships against each other. Within an hour, 1/3 of the Varnak fleet was gone. The rest tried to regroup, but the humans didn't let them. They were relentless, not cruel, not wild, just cold, precise, unstoppable. On the council world of Ovara, millions watched the battle unfold through shared feeds. Children who once played pretend as space knights now whispered, "I want to be like them." Even elders sat in silence, hearts pounding, because they were watching history, not of the Varnak's fall, but of something greater, the rise of a force that could no longer be denied. Back at the council chambers there was panic. What if they turn on us next? What if this is only the beginning? But others began to understand. The humans had not started this war. They had only ended the illusion of safety. Back in the battle, the Varnak flagship, a massive creature-machine hybrid, made one final stand. It was larger than anything humanity had faced. But Earth had prepared for this too. From the dark edge of the battlefield, a final ship appeared. It was silent, slow, glowing with golden energy. It had no name, no broadcast, no signal. But when it arrived, the battlefield froze, the last arc. The first and final warship ever built by Earth before the peace. It had never been used until now. It didn't fire weapons, it simply released light. A strange golden wave that passed through ships, through armor, through bone. The Varnak screamed, not in pain, but in confusion. Their minds filled with images of human wars, sacrifices, victories, and warnings. They didn't die from the light, they saw the truth, and then they fled. What remained of the Varnak vanished into dark space. No final message, no last strike, only silence. The war was over. On Earth, there were no celebrations. Only quiet rebuilding, honoring the lost and watching the stars. Because humans knew this would not be the last enemy. Only the latest, but the galaxy had changed. The council began listening more, fearing less, respecting more. And when they asked the humans one final question, "Why didn't you use all of this power from the beginning?" Admiral Saren only replied, "Because peace is not held by strength alone. It's held by the memory of what strength can do." And as she walked away, the smile returned, not of pride, not of joy, but of understanding, the kind of smile only a human could wear. The kind that says, "We've seen worse and we're still here."